All right, everybody. Sunday, September 25th. We didn't get a day to sleep on it. We got Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. 3 days to sleep on it. My name is Billy Ray Mitchell. I am here in Westwood, New Jersey for the first time in a long time. I haven't been here in a while. And then we got Pat Finn, President's Cup Pat in
Hello.
Charlotte, North Carolina. How was it yesterday, Pat?
President's Cup was great. Shout out to the city of Charlotte for hosting at Quail Hollow. Had a ton of fun down there. Great way to I got to tell you, it was a perfect weekend for it because we didn't play yesterday. So it was like, hey, let's unplug from college football for a little bit, follow some scores on our phones, but let's watch Justin Thomas and Spieth and Scotty and Cantlay and Schauffele and all the other guys. Hideki Matsuyama, beast. No, it was awesome. It was a great time. And I know it's actually still on right now, but we're doing this. I'm going to the Panthers game, so we should make some moves here.
Make haste, as people like to say. We're here to talk about the West Virginia Mountaineers and Virginia Tech football contest that took place on Thursday. West Virginia came into Lane Stadium. Lane Stadium was awesome. It was rocking. It was rolling. It was a spectacle. It was an amazing crowd. And West Virginia leaves and retains the Black Diamond Trophy with a final score of 33-10. Before we talk about that specifically, let's go ahead and Pat, you have an announcement on reverbs, and then we have our Hokie haikus. But first, as always, this podcast is brought to you by Main Street Pharmacy, your one-stop shop. Say that 3 times fast for all your pharmaceutical needs, all of your self-care needs, anything that you need. I went in, I grabbed a flag, hooked Mr. Cipolla up with a flag for his tailgate. So go on down to Main Street Pharmacy, check them out. You are more than a number. You are indeed a neighbor. Now give us an update on the voicemail and what's going on there if nobody's heard of it before.
Yeah, if any of you guys are solid verbal fans, they've been doing this for a long time. They do the reverbs where you essentially call in your reaction of your favorite college football team and how they played on Saturday. You call in, you leave like a 15-second voicemail, and you're either on top of the world or you're, just the very much opposite of that. And what we want to do is do something similar. We're going to call them the sundials. And, so call our line. We're going to be putting it out on Twitter so you guys know what to do. But hopefully we'll have these sundials set up for Carolina, and we'll have some good ones to read. So we'll play like our 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, our favorite ones before every single episode that we record on Sundays for the sundials. More to come.
And here we got a plethora of Hokie haikus here. I'll read the first 2. First from Steve Bryce. Hendon shines, Nestor mauls, Tavion scores, Hokies boil. I don't think any of these are haikus actually. The next one is what was the first one, Pat? We had one person who wrote in with a rhyme, and we kind of just let it through. And I think now they're just all going to send in their poems, which is fine.
Let it fly. Let the creativity fly. We got Steve Bryce. Roster on Foo, flags on Fry. 2022 over. B-ball time. It's kind of a rhyme. Main Street Farm has a real haiku. Looming mountain paths. Succumb not to despair, friends. Embrace the journey. Wow. That's very poetic. Wow. I feel like Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote that one. And then I don't know who said this one. Fall has come again. VT is a football school, yet they still suck ass. Wow.
People are upset. We're going to get into the game here. And speaking of upset, traffic makes me upset. Crowded places make me upset that aren't Lane Stadium. And long lines make me upset. You don't want to deal with those 3 things? Head on over to First and Main, where you can shop, you can eat, you can bowl, you can play. You can do all sorts of fun stuff over there. I had to head over there on game day. My buddy Juwan Bushel Beatty was in from Michigan, and he's a big dude. We were looking for some 3X clothing. Had to run over there during game day, parked right in the lot, was able to head right into Alumni Hall and go ahead and get him a big old sweater, big old maroon sweater.
He looked good.
It did. It looked fantastic, and it made it very easy to find him when I was sprinting over at the beginning of the game. But yeah, head on over, and for all of you that love Alumni Hall, if you let Alumni Hall know that the Sons of Saturday sent you, we have gotten the discount code back. We're sorry for the little lapse that had, but 10% off everything in store if you go ahead and mention the Sons sent you, or use Sons VT for 10% off of your order. Nice. Let's talk about the defense. I think it's very easy to look at the final score and have a problem with the defense, or look at the penalties and have a problem with the defense. A lot of the penalties were egregious, especially in that drive where we got them into a third down and a fourth down and just couldn't seem to make a stop. But if you want to talk about results, this defense held West Virginia to 16 points through 3 quarters, which is about all you can ask. They held West Virginia to 4 of 13 on third down. And through all of this, they were on the field for nearly 40 minutes. They seemed like they were on the field for a long time, especially in that first half. So another thing that I wanted to point out, or I guess we could shift over here to the negatives. Our pass rush was deplorable. Absolutely no pass rush. JT Daniels had all the time in the world to make decisions. I think we had 1 sack, and it was on that drive that ended up in a score because of penalties towards the end of the game. The other thing, West Virginia continued to run tight end motion, power, counter, pin and pull, and very honestly, we were dominated on both points of the line, both points of attack on the line of scrimmage, whether it's on offense or defense. And our safeties and our linebackers were continuously put in positions where if they didn't make a shoelace tackle, if they didn't fill a hole, if they didn't get hands on the running back, they were going to run for 40 or 50 yards into the end zone. So just an absolute dominant performance by West Virginia's front 5 and their tight ends. But in terms of results, I can't ask a lot more of this defense against a high-powered offense like West Virginia. I tried to tell everybody all week, this was not going to be a game that we're winning 13-6. This is not going to be a game that we're going to win, 7-3. West Virginia is going to score points, and actually, our defense played pretty damn well given the circumstances in the first in the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, I mean, so many thoughts, right? They forced the fumble early in the game when we have the 7-3 lead. I believe Jalen Stroman forced the fumble. Dorian Strong recovered and had a really good first half. Other than that last drive that West Virginia had right before the half, which was definitely brutal for momentum. The fact that we were only down 13-7 at half, if you only give up 13 points to West Virginia at halftime, I'd say we're in pretty good shape, right? And then they had another remarkable third quarter as well. The red zone defense for this Virginia Tech team was really solid on Thursday night. They only gave up 26 points to West Virginia, who has a high-powered offense. JT Daniels threw for a hair over 200 yards. You got to tip your cap to see 100 yards. It seemed like the middle of the field was open a lot for the West Virginia offense, but been saying it all season. Virginia Tech's defense is good enough to keep us in the game. Is Virginia Tech's offense good enough for us to win the game? And on Thursday night, it was not. But again, you got to tip your cap to the guys on the D. Like Shamari Connor had a great game, 11 tackles. Taiwan Garbutt had 4 tackles in the sack, the lone sack. CJ McCray, he's been all over. He's been a super surprising bright spot from this defensive line, number 56, CJ McCray. He had 5 tackles. Jaden Keller with 7 tackles on Thursday night. Dax, 7 tackles as usual. Nasir Peoples had 1.5 tackles for loss. So, they played well enough to keep us in the game. The red zone defense was incredible. Casey Legg, I believe, the kicker for West Virginia. Got to tip your cap to that guy as well.
Outscored us by himself. Scored 12 points.
12-10. Casey Legg beats Tech. But to be able to hold them so many times when they entered our territory early in the game. Obviously, it got away at the end, but the game was over at that point. We could not move the ball on offense.
No.
Not enough pressure in the backfield. West Virginia had limited big plays. Like they had, we were talking about the difference between chunk plays and big plays earlier, but West Virginia had just long drives. They had 2 drives that had 14 plays in their scoring drives. And they really just dominated time of possession, and we're just figuring out how to get the ball down the field and how to have the ball in their hands for most of the game. They had the ball for over 38 minutes on Thursday. So
yeah, go back and just look at some of the runs that they had. I mean, their running backs were kind of doing whatever they wanted to. They averaged almost 5 yards per carry. And again, these were runs that were literally a tackler away from running down the field untouched. So I really can't give enough credit to our safeties and our linebackers. And again, another football game where Dax Hollifield had a good game. I hate that he was in a position. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, he got burned in pass coverage." It's like, well, any linebacker would get burned by I don't know if it was a slot or a wide receiver. That's just a complete mismatch. You can't expect your middle linebacker to be able to keep up on a play like that. But I thought this was a very good game from our safeties and our linebackers. And it's just at the end of the day, the line of scrimmage was a yard. We either were starting a yard backwards on offense or starting a yard, down the field on defense. The West Virginia front guys they were huge. They were nasty. They played hard. They played together. It was a hell of a performance and fist fight that they, quite frankly, took to Virginia Tech in 2 halves of the football game. Moving over to special teams. I mean, I can't sing Peter Moore's praises louder. Peter Moore is amazing. He's one of the brighter spots on this team. We had that one punt where it was a bad snap or somebody slipped or something, and he still got it off and pinned it down the 2-yard line. It was our first punt. I believe it was our first punt, but then West Virginia had a 14-yard drive all the way down the field.
14 play. Yeah. That was debilitating when we pinned him at the 2 and they just let's see how long that drive was. That was was this the 92-yard drive?
Yep.
14 plays, 92 yards, 7 minutes, 6 seconds. Yeah, their first scoring drive of the game.
Held them to a field goal, though. I was literally that whole drive. I was like, well, this is 7. And then when you get off the field with 3, you're like, okay, that's a win. Any other notes on special teams?
Will Ross.
Yeah.
Guy's automatic. Hasn't missed yet. Giving him a game ball later. The offense. We'll talk about the offense.
Well, hold on. One last thing on special teams. Our punt return unit may as well not line up. We should put everybody on the line of scrimmage and just say, go block the punt and not even try to return it. I know my problem in the Old Dominion game was that we didn't field the punt and we let it bounce for another 20 yards. Well, now all we do every single time is, regardless of where the opposing team is on running down the field, we're fair catching it. And then that's it. We logged 0 punt returns in this ball game. There were several times where we're calling for a fair catch and we may have 15 or 10 yards down the field to make something happen. That's just a frustration point for me is we just continue to, I don't know if that's the scheme. I don't know if it's nerves or whatever it is, but man, we got to find a way to make something happen on punt, especially with an offense that just can't move the ball. So that's my one nitpick on our special teams unit. Want to shift it over to offense here? Let's shift it over to offense.
Let's talk about it.
It's embarrassing on so many different levels. I don't really know where to start. We'll start where I thought we would have to start this week, which is the offensive line. It just has no ability to get any push to the line of scrimmage. This is not just oh my gosh, look how our offensive line is performing this week. What a glaring issue. No, we get dominated at the point of attack against every opponent. This is a problem against Wofford. This is a problem against Old Dominion. We also found out this week that Boston College is cheeks. Boston College is horrible. So bad. But every single game, the situation is the line of scrimmage is a yard backwards, or if we're handing the ball off, Keyshawn King, Jalen Holston, or whoever is running the ball has the pre-requirement of them to make somebody miss in the backfield. Why? Is it because it's a zone read? No, because somebody is just going to completely whiff and not block somebody, and then they're going to have to make one man miss before they even think about getting downfield. It is so frustrating. It is so bad. And I think this is just something we are going to have to deal with moving forward. It was not the sack fest that I assumed that it would be. I believe West Virginia had 1 sack and 5 quarterback carries. So we did okay in the pass blocking.
The pass pro's good, serviceable,
Yeah. I just, you're not going to be able to do anything.
Grant Wells is not running for his life every other play.
That's true. But it is, I mean, Virginia Tech rushed for 35 yards. It is just not good. The run game and the offensive line play right now. So I'll move on from that, but that is an issue that needs to be addressed in the portal, in recruiting, however we need to do it. And again, this isn't me pointing the finger at Joe Rudolph or anything. He has a track record. It's pretty obvious that he knows what he's doing, but man, this is the worst offensive line play we've seen in as long as I can remember, certainly.
Yeah.
And Pat, your timeline goes back longer than mine.
It just seems like every single running play is into Johnny Jordan's back.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt.
I'm glad you said that, because I have a couple nitpicks here. So I want to talk about the offensive scheme. I'm having trouble understanding what the plan is game to game, play to play, drive to drive. We go against West Virginia, and in my opinion, we're going to have to steal points, and we're going to have to get creative. And almost the blueprint that Tech was going to win this game, in my opinion, was going to be under a similar blueprint that we beat North Carolina last year. North Carolina and West Virginia both had way more offensive talent than we had. They had more speed. They had more playmakers. They had everything that you could want on the offense. And the goal here is to have sustained drives that end in some sort of type of points. I didn't see any creativity. I didn't see any tricks or any gadget plays when the game started to get out of hand or when we needed to press a little bit. Oh my gosh, the third to last possession at halftime, and we'll talk about discipline here in this podcast as well. You get a false start, okay? And you're in like kill the clock mode. You're in like, okay, we got about 7 minutes left. Let's make sure that we get the clock down so West Virginia doesn't see the football again, and we can, go into halftime feeling pretty good about ourselves. False start. Okay, you move the ball back 5 yards. You talk about it forever, and then you get a delay of game on that same exact 60-second. That can't happen. That's actually impossible. Like you cannot go from having a false start to a delay of game. You're calling a play and you're running it. So frustrating. A tale of two halves from the receiving core. I thought in the first half we did a really good job of like I turned to you and told you this, Pat, like midway through the second quarter, we were doing a good job of these little possession catches, whether it's Caleb Smith going over the middle, Gallo over in the flat, these little 5 or 10 yard dink and dunk passes. We were doing a good job with that, and that completely disappeared from the game plan in the second half. I'm not sure if Caleb Smith was hurt after halftime, but still the attacking of the middle of the field seemed to disappear. I'll stop talking for a second. I'd love to get your thoughts on this, but the one last thing that I want to mention off of you saying the running backs running directly into the back of Johnny Jordan is there is a complete and utter refusal to run the football or toss the football east and west. All offseason, from everybody in the program, out of the program, observers, fans, whatever. Trash in the jet sweep, trash in the jet sweep, trash in the jet sweep. I get it. Like, I understand. We can look back at the analytics and you'll see that it's one of the most productive plays that we ran all of last year, but I get it. Like, we wanted to do it a little bit different. We wanted to have a different offensive identity. But it's almost to the point where this is almost like a joke on it because we refuse to run it ever. We refuse to run it ever. We have athletes like Keyshawn King, athletes like Jaden Blue. The challenge has been getting them the football. With Keyshawn King, it's there's a guy in the backfield immediately. With Jaden Blue, it's we can't throw the football to him into his hands to where he can then make a play. You are not going to be able to develop an inside run game or develop a passing game if you are not moving the linebackers out of the box. And moving the linebackers out of the box happens with motions. It happens with sweeps. It happens with needing to adjust. I really, it's almost like we have like this rule where we're not allowed to run anything to the outside edges. Are you noticing that, Pat? You don't have to know football to realize that every single time we run the ball, it is in the middle of 8 to 9 people in the box every single time.
Without fail. Well, I guess with fail. Yes. I mean, the Keyshawn King touchdown against Boston College, he ran to the outside. And it was the longest run from scrimmage all year.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen really none of it. I mean, even here and there, we've seen it from Blumrick and Dawan Lofton maybe 2 or 3 times this year. I think both of those, there was pre-snap motion, and they'd come from the far side and then run to the short side of the field, which was kind of always it handcuffed us a lot in the Fuente era when we would run a jet sweep to the short side of the field. When we didn't do it, it usually did pick up, 8 or 9 yards most of the time. But the almost is neglection a word? Neglecting the east-west in any way, shape, or form. Like, you need to have east-west in your pocket.
It needs to be on film. It needs to be something that a linebacker is thinking about. If you're handing the ball off and it's going to the same 3 holes. And again, even if you run it to the short end of the field, you're making it's not always about getting 8 to 10 plays to 8 to 10 yards in every single play. It's about making the linebackers and making the second line of the defense have to honor certain stuff. Mm-hmm. And without running it ever, they are just eliminating that from what potential outcome they could see or what they need to be responsible for. It's so frustrating. And I hope that we're able to pick it. It's just gotten to the point where I don't know what we're doing and what we're working to set up. I don't see a play and I say, oh, that's set up nicely from 3 plays ago. It literally just seems like we're kind of grasping at straws again, in terms of like getting lined up correctly, knowing where everybody is going. We just look like it just doesn't, it's like that, it's like a lawnmower that you have to crank for 20 minutes before you get it started. And then it stops sometimes in the middle of the yard. And then the oil's leaking everywhere. It's kind of, I don't know why that was the reference that I went for, but that's literally what it looks like to me.
228 yards of total offense. This is from the late hits from Bill Roth. He says Tech held to 35 rushing yards, was the 11th lowest in school history and the lowest since 9 yards against Pitt in 2015. That was a tough moment. Pitt 2015. That was always this needs to be Coach Beamer's last year moment when we had 9 rushing yards in the rain against Pittsburgh at home. So that was brutal. A couple more notes that I have here. Caleb Smith, when he is in the game and when we are throwing the ball to him, he is extremely effective.
He makes plays. Yeah.
No, he is a playmaker. Thank you. Yes. I don't know who the ball was intended for on our scoring drive, but it hit off their hands, and Caleb Smith, Johnny on the spot, catches the deflected pass and then goes for 20 plus yards for a first down. That was huge for momentum, and then he scores on a 28-yard touchdown pass from Grant Wells, which was awesome, by the way. That was a incredibly acrobatic catch that he made in the corner of the end zone. Jaden Blue cannot let the ball hit him in the face.
I mean, yeah.
Like, those are things that just cannot happen.
Yeah.
In the third quarter of a tight game, that was just that was really, really tough. Because Grant put it right on the spot. Grant Wells is definitely having some issues getting past that first read. It's been stare down mode. And then if the first guy isn't open, we're not getting much out of Grant.
Well, let's talk about Grant for a second. A couple of things that I want to mention. I turned to you at halftime, or maybe like halfway through the second quarter. And this is literally how I felt. I was like, we are literally winning this game by mistake, and we are likely to get blown out in the second half. And the reason that I said that was in the first half, we were given about 3 or 4 different opportunities to have explosive plays. These are literally wide receivers running down the field, wide open, completely naked. You throw the ball anywhere in the general vicinity of them, they are walking into the end zone, holding up the peace sign, and everybody in the north end zone or south end zone is going crazy. I've said it before, Grant Wells has arm talent. That is true. But anytime it's 20-yard passes down the field and guys are wide open, he's almost looking to throw it on a rope or throw it directly to the guy and hit him in stride, when in reality, one of the aspects, I'm going to hit you with a mild throwback. One of the aspects that I really enjoyed about Josh Jackson's game was he's never trying to lead Cam Phillips into the end zone or throw it to him where he hits him in stride. He would get back in the pocket. He would throw it up and allow the receiver to run under it. It allows you for more margin for error, and it gives your receivers an opportunity to go up and get it. But in the end of the day, you can simply not miss these opportunities. West Virginia was doing something wrong in their secondary. I couldn't exactly pinpoint, but there were 4 or 5 opportunities where receivers are scot-free running down the sideline, and we miss them. And you have to realize that those are things, as soon as West Virginia goes in the locker room, they're going to get their guys together, they're going to make an adjustment, and those aren't going to be available. And in a football game where points were going to come at a premium and our defense was playing really, really well, you simply can't miss opportunities to convert on that. So I don't I don't know where to go from here. Yeah.
That was a great throwback to Josh Jackson and Cam Phillips. You think about that West Virginia game, how he would just kind of lob it up and give his guy a chance to make a play.
But it's not always about like throwing it up and then he needs to moss them. These are guys that have 15 yards worth of room. You don't have to get it to him immediately. Give him a second to run under it. I mean, we had an opportunity to have probably close to 250, 300 yards of passing in the first half. Christian Moss running down the field wide open, Jaden Blue, Caleb Smith. There was plenty of opportunity. And now that I'm thinking about it, Pat, you're right. Like, the offensive line was giving them enough time to get it done. I do want to say this. I don't necessarily know where I stand on the quote unquote quarterback competition situation or whatever, because again, it goes so much deeper than just quarterback play. It's running back play. It's offensive line play. It's inconsistency at the wide receiver position from a health and availability perspective. I will say this. If you make a change at quarterback, I want you to play somebody young. I want you to play somebody who's going to be in the program next year. I want to see somebody who we can build by, because at the end of the day, this season is a tremendous opportunity for young guys to get experience and get ready for next year. Pat, do you have any thoughts on the quarterback situation?
Oh man, I want to hold my reservations until after Carolina. Because I think hold my thoughts. Okay. Because that's going to be an opportunity where, hey, the Coastal is still what we're fighting for right now.
First place.
We are in sole possession of first place in the Coastal, if I'm not mistaken, which is just an indictment on the Coastal Division. But Carolina's defense is so bad. Can we? I guess I don't want to call it the last chance, but if we don't see improvement, then that's where we should probably be turning to other guys in the quarterback room. Carolina's defense is giving up 307 passing yards a game. I'm sorry, they're giving up 278 passing yards a game, 216 rushing yards a game, 39.5 points per game. They are surrendering. This is a horrible defense. They're surrendering over 507 yards on defense per contest.
And it's not due to a lack of talent.
Not due to lack of talent. We could talk about that more in the Carolina preview. Tech's offense, 337 yards a game. That's good for 187th in college football. 218 passing yards a game, 147th in college football. 112 rushing yards per game. This is really the eyesore stat. 112 rushing yards per game is tied for 198th overall. 20.3 points per game is 115th, and third down conversion percentage is tied for 128th in the country at 33.3%. All those numbers need to get better. Need to get better.
Speaking of need to get better, let's move on to our out to lunch segment here. That is brought to you by Roots Natural Kitchen. Look, I was in Blacksburg. Typically, I'm eating unhealthy. I'm making poor decisions. Not when there's a Roots in town. Head on over to Roots Natural Kitchen. It's right over by. How would you describe that area, Pat? Over by the.
It's kind of by UCB. Over by the inn at Virginia Tech. McAllister's, the Chipotle. Prices for it. Roots Natural Kitchen. Download the Roots app. Watch our Roots videos. We got Sean Padula.
Yeah.
We got Hunter Couture, Dax. We've had some fun Roots videos. We got some fun ones coming up too. But download the Roots app. Use code use code in all caps beat UNC for 20% off your order in the Roots app when you go to Roots this week. What was your Roots out to lunch of the week here, Bill?
My out to lunch was it was almost like the video of me in Lane Stadium trying to get the wave to stop because everybody was so fired up. It's 4th and 1. We just get a turnover. 7-3, I believe the score is at the time. And we got the ball on the 18-yard line. First of all, Keyshawn King steps out inches short of the first down line, and it's 4th down. And I'm screaming, field goal. Got to take the points. Got to take the points. Everybody in there, we got to do this. This is the right. No, you just got to turnover. Defense is playing lights out. You got to take the points here. And
this is a free possession.
This is a free possession. This is a free opportunity to guarantee yourself an opportunity to go in at halftime, winning this football game. We not only do we step out a yard short, but we decide we're going to go for it. Okay. We decide we're going to go for it and we try to line up. We don't line up fast enough. So we need to burn a timeout. Okay. I'm going to burn a timeout. I see Will Ross run on the field. He's doing some leg stretches. He's doing some swings. I'm like, okay. I think we're going to kick a field goal here. I think we're going to make the right decision. Lo and behold, after the timeout, we trot our offense back on the field. I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. But at least they had, basically 2.5 minutes to think about what they wanted to run. So surely we're going to come out here and we're going to run something good. We're going to see some East and West. We're going to see a little bubble. We're going to see a little, something creative. That's not what we saw. We saw the Tech offense line up in shotgun. We saw them line up in shotgun with Jalen Holston on his hip. And we saw us run quarterback dive in the box when West Virginia has 8 guys in the box and we have 6. Gain of 0. West Virginia ball. That was so bad. The decision to go for it was bad. The play call that you decided to run was egregious. And again, it just goes to show, like, I like being aggressive. I like aggressive play calling. I like going out and trying to take the game. But in a game like this, where you have a high-powered offense going against a good defense, like, for momentum purposes, you have to find points in a situation like that. If you are gifted a turnover, you have to find points. And I thought that was a huge turning point in the football game. Pat.
I think from the decision to go for it, our 4th down percentage this year has got to be below 25%. I know statistically on a 4th and 1 in that situation, analytics or whatever will tell you to go for it.
Analytics hasn't seen our offensive line.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can't, phone the analytics booth and they say go for it and then run it up the gut with your quarterback. You don't have Cam Newton or Tim Tebow or Logan Thomas as your quarterback who's going to get you that extra yard. Quincy Patterson is not, the guy lining up.
I don't think they would have been able to do it either. You're 8 on 6. There are 2 extra hats for West Virginia to make a play here. There was no that play did not have a chance from Jump Street. No chance.
Like you said, I like the aggressive play.
Oh, not like I said. I don't. Oh, okay.
I like being aggressive. Is what I mean.
Okay.
I like being aggressive because I don't know, it's the what if game.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder, I feel like we're always going for it on 4th and 1.
We are every time, it seems
We're
like.
running it up gut, and it's going up the gut every single time. And everyone in Lane Stadium and the 2 million people watching on TV know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if, since this is year one, it's just, you know what, year one, let's take risks. And you're looking at me like
I mean, can we take risks? I just I don't know what bigger sample size we need to understand that this offensive line is not the type of offensive line that is going to get in a 3-point stance and run over the person in front of them. That's not what we're going to do. It's not what we're going to do. We haven't done it against Wofford. We haven't done it against Old Dominion. We haven't done it against Boston College. We just didn't do it against West Virginia. Like, I'm down to take risks.
If they are backed by reasons. And
and if you're going to take a risk, don't try the same thing over and over and over again when it's not working. It is actually insanity.
Exactly.
So sorry.
I'll jump into my out to lunch. My out to lunch, we were eating bananas, we were eating lemons, penalty flags, a lot of yellow. I said I don't like yellow in Lane Stadium, seeing all the gold West Virginia shirts. It also has to do with penalties, 15 penalties. Here's some more Bill Roth late hits for you. The 132 penalty yards was the second most in Virginia Tech history, most since 143 versus Florida State in the 2005 ACC title game. 15 penalties, ties for the second most ever. And then West Virginia had 8 first downs by penalties, including 4 that negated a 3rd or 4th down stop. 2 of those were in that touchdown drive that West Virginia scored. One of them was the hands to the face by Pollard. The other one was the late hit by Dax.
Hated all of those.
The late hit was on like a 4th and 5, and the hands to the face was on a 3rd and 14. And once we got the hands to the face, you knew that the game was over.
Yeah,
at that point.
Cooked.
There was no coming back. The defense had been on the field for what seemed like an hour straight. At that point, it was the longest drive of all time, it seemed like. But that's just to say, too, like, we had 15 penalties. West Virginia had 8 first downs by penalties. So more of the penalties were actually on the defensive side of the ball. The defense is keeping us in these games, but, you know, they also have some serious room to improve because they're putting themselves in situations that are not going to be beneficial to anyone on the Virginia Tech side. So that is my out to lunch. That is what needs to stop.
Yeah. Moving right along, I like coming up with segment names, so I just named this one, but I really just wanted to share a statistic with everybody. In 2 losses, this is called the Mitchell's mind-numbing numbers segment. The number that I have that I am presenting to you today are in 2 losses. Virginia Tech has 30 penalties for 238 yards. Penalties, lack of knowing what to do, lack of understanding, lack of discipline, has nothing to do with talent. That, to me, coupled with recruiting, are the 2 biggest concerns for this staff immediately. Are lack of discipline, lack of knowing what to do, lack of understanding assignments across the board. Our defense played great. in between the lines, but we can't have these drive extending penalties in these, I think we had a legal substitution and just bad. You got to iron this stuff out. Cannot have 30 penalties for 238 yards.
The good thing is that if you iron these things out, you can be more competitive in football games.
You might win some games.
And you might make Happy Sons of Saturday podcast on the Sunday after game day. The good thing is that these are fixable things.
Yeah.
So
that is true. That's true.
Positive. Here are my mind-numbing numbers. 14. We had 14 first downs. That's not a lot of first downs. A lot of that can be attributed to having the ball for only 21 minutes, and we only had 228 offensive yards. Those are some numbers that give me that, and I'll tell you that we did not win.
We also averaged 1.9 yards per rush and finished with a breathtaking 35 yards of rushing. And that a couple of those are from I think we had like a garbage time run by Grant Wells and a garbage time run by Jalen Holston, but
we were looking like Boston College's run game against us.
Yeah, so just not
All
good.
Right. Game ball, CMG Leasing, our friends. We love CMG Leasing. If you're a student, you love CMG Leasing because of the T-shirts that they gave out at the game.
I'm wearing it. I'm wearing it.
Throwback night. Those are cool. It's like what kind of orange would you describe that as?
So this is like the and for those of you listening saying, why are you guys talking like you can't see it? Well, you can head on over to our YouTube, subscribe, like the video. But no, this is like that orangey sherbet thing. It's not our orange, but it's a fun orange.
I like it. It's not traffic cone or it's not burnt either. All right. So they gave out 10,000 T-shirts. The students look great.
They did,
as they always do. In the student section, check out the Edge Apartments this year. They are accepting applications for 2023 and 2024. So that's next year. The Edge is right across from Virginia Tech campus. It has utilities baked in. It has your furnishing needs baked in. You know, you don't have to go over to Bob's Discount Furniture. Who's the guy from the commercials? Is it Bob?
Bob.
It is Bob. You don't have to go over to Bob's, you know. It's baked in. Your heating, your cooling, the other utilities already in there. Apply today, vtcampusedge.com. Text VTEdge to 540-202-1638. A nice walk from campus, a nice walk from downtown, a beautiful pool, a weight room. Live at the Edge. CMG Leasing is the exclusive student housing partner of Virginia Tech football. Billy Ray, your game ball goes to...
My game ball goes to Doug Nestor. That guy had an absolutely dominant performance. He was the highest graded offensive lineman on the entire team. He had an 80, I think it was like an 80.8 blocking grade. We had a couple of people. I guess I'll lump this into an out to lunch thing. I just want to say Doug Nestor played his absolute tail off in what must have been a very emotional game for him to play in. So, hats off to him. He'll be playing on Sunday. To lump this into the out to lunch thing, we had a couple of fans in our sections who were just screaming, Doug Nestor sucks. Doug Nestor sucks. Doug Nestor, you suck. And, I'm just watching him absolutely ragdoll everybody on our defense. I got to tell you, never has anyone, unless Pat, what is your rule for yelling at players? I like your yell at players rule. It's like seniors need to find it funny. What is it?
My yell at players rule is that I only say it if I think that the older gentleman sitting next to me will think it's funny. Otherwise, I'm just being a nuisance to everyone in my section.
Exactly.
I want the old guy sitting next to me to kind of crack a smile.
Yeah, and maybe even the guy crack a smile. There's this guy who must have weighed 160 pounds soaking wet, and he's screaming at number 8 for West Virginia, and he just looks like a complete idiot. I mean, if they were to go down there and have a little, I wish that players could call for a bull in the ring situation where they say, "Yo, this guy in the stands has been chirping me all game. You see him, Mr. Officer? Can you let him down real quick? Bring him to the 50-yard line, have them tag each other up a little bit." Get the fan out in a hospital stretcher, and then we can continue to play the football game. Don't be that guy. You look like an idiot. It's not a good look. But yeah, long story short, game ball goes to Doug Nestor. And I'll go ahead. If I have to give one to a Tech player, I'll give it to Peter Moore. Peter Moore's great. Peter Moore is the best player on the team. So great job, Peter Moore.
I'm going to zag you. Will Ross is getting a game ball from me. One for one. Also made his extra point, 44-yarder. Will Ross is 4 for 4 this year on kicks over 40 yards. He's having a great year. Another game ball goes to Caleb Smith for his athletic TD catch. He had a career-high 70 yards through the air on 5 catches. That was really it from the bright spots from the offense on Thursday. I also want to give a game ball to the Coastal Division for keeping it interesting. After a horrible Thursday night performance, the Coastal is still open. As we say every year, as the calendar flips to October, the Coastal Division is wide open. We could still win the Coastal. We control our own destiny. Like these are the conversations that get me up in the morning and, enable me to put gas in my car to drive to Chapel Hill on Saturday. Miami got crushed by Middle Tennessee.
Crushed.
Carolina got crushed by Notre Dame, which I loved because I was chirping at Carolina fans over the past 3 or 4 days. So they're going to be hearing it from me all week because I cannot stand University of North Carolina. Georgia Tech lost to UCF. Duke lost to Kansas. University of Virginia lost to Syracuse on Friday night.
Syracuse is good, by the way. For any of you wondering, Syracuse is a good football team.
They are good. Derek Schrader didn't play his best, though, but they do have Sean Tucker. Pitt is the leader in the clubhouse right now. Pitt has a target on their backs right now because they really have no glaring deficiencies. They have a nice win over West Virginia. Their only loss is definitely a quality loss. It was to Tennessee in overtime. Shout out to my guy, Tristan Raish, talking about the Coastal Division. It's been one of the few constants in my life over the past few years. An unwavering, unshakable source of comfort through this crazy world. God bless the Coastal Division.
Yes. I'm with you, dude. It is in a year where, I went into it and it was like, hey, like we should really try to put our best foot forward here with the ACC. This is a big moment for the ACC to go ahead and make some noise here. And the ACC is just, continuously punching itself in the face. It's just not what you're looking for. Can we talk about some stuff that isn't football for a second? And by the way, it's always funny how we have a podcast like this. It's actually usually way more than once a year, but this is the first one where we got on with just complete and utter despair. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the football game, but stuff that didn't include football. So the basketball team got to soak in a special moment, which was an absolute fever dream of a season last year, winning the ACC. Place went bananas. What a special and awesome moment. I know that they had some big time recruits in town, which is awesome. And everybody got to really celebrate what was one of the greater moments in Virginia Tech sports history in winning the ACC. Crowd was absolutely unbelievable. Again, the student section completely packed up to, over an hour before kickoff. I believe everybody, my little group went in there about an hour and 15 minutes before kick. Just completely packed. Awesome showing. And Justin Mutz, that guy's a national treasure. What an amazing representative of Virginia Tech. What an amazing moment for him to get up there. He seems like a complete natural, taking the microphone, getting up there, leading the Let's Go Hokies chant. It was just awesome. But again, it leads me to this conversation that nobody likes to have. And it's every single time that there's a big game like this, the fan base shows out and it's awesome. And while I disagree with the sentiment because we would have nothing to show recruits, I got home 2 nights ago. And first thing my pops wants to say, and Pat, give me your thoughts on this. He goes, you know what, you guys, I think you guys just got to stop doing the entrance and don't do it until you guys earn it. Like, it's just like you do this awesome entrance, it's badass. It's intimidating. It's, you're running out there and then you guys suck. And then that's it. And that's so true. And it's so upsetting because the events team and everybody else does such a great job putting on this amazing spectacle over and over and over again. Everybody gets in their Hyundai, their Tesla, their Jeep or whatever and drives down to campus. They show up, they're loud, they're proud, they're awesome, and just can't find a way to win these games. And it's so depressing and so upsetting. But that's it for me.
It's a take. It's definitely a take. You gotta keep understanding.
No, I know, yeah, but but the point it's a national punchline. It's a national punchline now.
I don't know how you get folks to come to the games if you don't have that production.
Exactly.
It's unlike anything else in college football. You got to have it. You got to do it. The recruits love it. The basketball recruits love it. The students pack the stadium an hour before kickoff because they want to be there for Enter Sandman. That's how you build culture. That's how you build a true identity of, I'm a Virginia Tech fan. This is really important to me. Obviously I wish we had to earn it too, or I wish we had some other things that we could earn. But it is tough. Justin Mutz, you're right about that. Like, Justin Mutz is a guy who is so enamored by this fan base. He's like a Dax Hollifield. He's like a Justin Robinson. Hunter Couture, I think the same way. Like, you get guys who just really just embrace Virginia Tech, and we embrace them right back. And Justin Mutz has probably done that maybe more than anyone who's ever come through Virginia Tech. That might be a stretch, but as far as Hokies who are just beloved,
an OKG dude,
an absolute, just a guy who loves Blacksburg.
He's a guy.
Tyrod Taylor, I think, is probably has the highest approval rating of any Hokie of all time, in my opinion. I would love to do a segment on this, or a letters from the lunch pail segment, or some type of survey of who is the highest approval rating of all time among Virginia Tech athletes. But I know that Justin Mutz is probably very high on that list. Guys who just love Virginia Tech and stick around. And Ed Williams brought to my attention this morning that Tech is ranked number 43 in the Rothstein 45 for preseason basketball. I think we're a little better than that. I think Ed agrees with that. I think a lot of people agree with that. I think we're better.
A lot of Hokie fans think we're better than that. I would agree with that.
So, anywho, where do we go from here? Jimmy Blount wrote in a letter from the lunch pail. Not to be obvious, where do we go from here? What do they have to put a focus on for us to have a chance in ACC play? Penalties,
discipline,
and figuring out how to score points.
Yeah.
Getting the ball in our playmakers' hands more.
In space. No, not just in their hands, getting the ball to them in space. That's what needs to happen. I'm telling you, we got to see some of this East and West stuff. If we don't see any against North Carolina, I'm making a on the stink level, I'm making a medium stink about it. I'm going to throw a serious stink about it if we don't see some East and West against Carolina. And I'm telling you, Pat, you know me. I'm not doing this out of spite. You literally need to do it in order to have a successful offense. You cannot have a successful offense without doing any type of toss, speed, sweep. You have to do some of it. I'm done talking about it now, but I will be making a large stink about it if we don't see some of it next week.
Listen, I am not a football expert in any way, shape, or form. I have played Madden, and I have played NCAA football. And I'm here to tell you that the plays that I would hate running when I was on offense was an HB dive or an HB ISO or a QB draw or an HB draw. Anything that goes straight, I just wouldn't do it because it wouldn't get me what I wanted. And what I wanted was points. I understand it needs to be part of the offense, but you need to move the ball to the outside in the run game. You need to go around the edge. I just don't see. I don't see what we're missing there. Pete Berthod, my man, my guy. He tweeted, "It's never as good as it seems, and it's never as bad as it seems." That is a Frank Beamer quote. He's right. We are in an instant gratification type world right now. We know that this is a rebuild. We know that there are plenty of opportunities for us to get better over the next few years. I think what's drawing most of the harshness is that the way that we are losing these games, because it's things that are fixable, and penalties is at the top of that list. If this team isn't penalized, we could be 4-0. At the very least, we are 3-1 if we can clean that up. And that is a discipline priority, and that is coaching. So it's just the way that we are losing is making this a lot more the sky is falling. And I appreciate Pete for bringing up that Beamer quote, because he is absolutely right. Beamer definitely saw the peaks and the valleys during his time at Tech, and I'm with him there. So stick with this team. They're going to frustrate you. We knew this. We knew that they were going to frustrate all of us. I think it's no secret.
No, I agree. I think it's extremely important. I think it's extremely important to continue to show up, to continue to support this team. I'm not saying that was ever in question, but just to stick with this team. Continue to. We need environments like that for recruits to see, to want to come here and get a yard on 4th and 1, and whatever. We're done talking. We're moving on. Letters
from the lunch pail.
Parks Talbot. Does this guy own Talbots? It used to be an account of mine. Coach Pry said we are going to be a team that can go out and get a yard when we need to. Why do we line up in shotgun in short yardage situation? Don't want to hear about being undersized or any of that. Well, Parks, I'm not going to tell you we're undersized. Actually, I am. We are undersized. But no, I don't understand. I don't understand. And again, I don't have as much of a problem as lining up in shotgun as I do lining up in shotgun if you're going to just run forward. If you want to line up in shotgun and do some sweep, do some toss, do some, something different, fine. But to line up in shotgun to run 4 yards to try to get 1 extra yard I'm not a mathematician, but that just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
Agree. Joe Rogers, how much of an impact will Malachi Thomas make when he returns? Malachi Thomas is going to make an impact when he returns, but if the offensive line is going to continue the path that they are on, then Malachi Thomas is not going to make the difference that I think all of us think he is going to make.
I don't think it matters who you have back there. If you have Derrick Henry back there and we're not blocking anybody, this is the problem really has not been. I mean, I've voiced my frustration with some Jalen Holston carries and whatnot, but the problem has not been running back talent. It's been they literally are put in a position where they need to make somebody miss at the beginning of every play. So I think I would manage my expectations on that.
That being said, I know people are going to be really fired up when Malachi makes his return. Maybe that's this week at Carolina. Sean Kim, without being at practice and having knowledge of how our players practice, how would you call plays differently if you were Bowen? I think we need more running back and wide receiver screens and, of course, outside runs. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think we kind of talked about this already, but leveraging east-west is going to need to get into the game plan. Juice Herbert fan, why is the O-line solid in pass protection but bad in creating the run?
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. Like you said, they're decent in pass protection. Also, another thing to keep in mind with pass protection, we don't really hold on to the ball. Like you said, Pat, due to the nature of kind of like us looking at one receiver, we're really not getting, taking 5-step drops and hanging back there for a long time. But the pass protection has been good. The run game has just been god awful. I don't really have I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't.
Yeah. This guy, The Keys, asks, when are we going to see another quarterback? Will we see Jason Brown in action? Up to this point, why not? I think Carolina is going to give you an opportunity to score points. I don't care who's playing quarterback next week. The quarterback should be able to get Virginia Tech in the end zone. That might be the barometer. If we don't have anything going by halftime, it might be time to put in JB.
I want to take this one. Patrick Bowers, how much longer does Hokie Nation need to be patient? The fans continue to show up just to be massively let down. What else do you want to do? I'm not just speaking to you, Patrick. This is not an this is everyone. What else do you want to do? When you say how much longer do we need to be patient? What's the opposite answer? Don't go to the games. Don't watch. Don't support. I mean, I'm going to show up. If we lose every game for the rest of the season, I'm going to buy season tickets next year. I'm going to tune in next year. The reality of the situation is, Pat, like you said, it's going to be a tough year. But all off season, we were clamoring. We wanted to change. We got to change. You're not going to win 10 games in year one, even though I did predict it. You're not going to win. You're not going to win 10 games in year one. A lot of people understood that this was the expectation. But I got into it with some folks about what people are owed or understanding hey, people need to know the fan base exists. Every person on this team loves this fan base. Every person on this team and the staff realizes how amazing the environment was. The reason that it's amazing is because of the fans who show up. But at the same standpoint, these guys are working their tails off to get better. This isn't a group I didn't watch the game the other night and think that we quit. I thought that we were soft. I thought that we, didn't really have a great plan to go out and win the game. But I don't think we have a team of quitters and a team of people who don't care. I don't think that that's where we are. So, I encourage everybody to continue to show up to Lane Stadium, continue people to talk about it, continue people to support their team because I love my school and And I think everybody does, and I think that's what people will continue to do.
I said this before last season. It's even more applicable this season. This is your opportunity to sharpen your tailgating skills as if you're the ones going in and practicing every day.
Yeah.
Because a breath of fresh air can make expectations a lot higher than they should be.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we're going to have fun with Enter Sandman and some of the in-game stuff. You might, and you very likely will this season, leave Lane Stadium after a game frowning.
I did last week.
To which I say, go back to July and think of what you thought of this program in July, knowing that this is going to be a challenging year. Would it be nice to overachieve just once? Yes, absolutely. It never happens. So I understand why patience is just waning and waning and waning, because I feel like we're just waiting to overachieve one time, and it just doesn't happen. That being said, think about Coach Young. Again, basketball, football, this is apples and oranges, but that first year under Coach Young, it wasn't easy. We went out and beat Michigan State in Maui, and that was huge, and that was a sign of what could potentially arrive in Blacksburg and Castle. But know that there were some lumps there, and that's just what's going to happen here. It's harder to rebuild in football, and you just got to continue to be patient. Hang out with your friends on game day. Sharpen those tailgating skills. Win the tailgate, because you might be frowning when you leave Lane Stadium, and that's kind of what we signed up for 2022. 2023, it's going to be a different story. 2024, it's going to be a different story, and we're going to have a lot more data to be able to assess as far as how we think the tenure is going. But until then, I think we all kind of knew what was going to happen, and we all had our optimistic hats on, and that's just how it has been. But I like the question because it is tough on the emotions. We're going through it. I'm gonna be honest. I was so sad on Friday, man.
Dude, so it was a rough game, rough day. Sharky shout out Really Kranick. That crazy SOB he had an overnight shift. He's a cop in Jersey City. He left his overnight shift in New Jersey at like 11 o'clock on Wednesday night, showed up to Blacksburg at like 5 a.m. and partied all day. So shout out to him. My buddy Juwan Bushell Beatty. He was a offensive lineman on my high school team, went to Michigan, came down for the game. So was really glad to see both of them. And I want to shout out all of you. Every year we get on here and we have a podcast after a loss, and it just, Pat, I got to say, it's not fun doing these. It's not. I think I said at least 50 times after the game, I'm walking out of the stadium and everybody's like, my joke has kind of been, they're like, man, this sucks. Nobody's more upset than me. I'm like, really? Because I have to talk about it for, an hour and 15 minutes on my Sunday, on the Lord's Day. I have to get on here and I have to relive it. No, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Because I know some of these are tough. These are tough, but you got to talk about tough things. We're all a big family. Sometimes the water heater breaks and you got to nix the plans to get a pool in the backyard, or sometimes the dog runs away, and some families have to have tough talks. These are our tough talks.
Wow. I want to give my Sharky shout out to all the folks who are going to put on a brave face and go to the Carolina game. Should be fun. 3:30 here in rain in the forecast. Could be another hurricane game. We'll see if Drake May can continue his success through the air, or if we will put that to a halt like we did for Mitchell Trubisky in 2016. I want to shout out my parents for making the trip down to Charlotte. Picked them up at noon on Thursday. We made it up to Blacksburg in time for some tailgating, and then we came back on Friday night, went to the President's Cup yesterday. A lot of time with mom and dad. Shout out to you guys for doing that podcast last week. Shout out to Grayson and Billy Ray is what I mean by that.
Thank you.
And hosting Maddie and Steve Sladen from the Burning Couch.
We owe them something. Yeah.
It was an interesting podcast. Some vulgar stories were shared, and I was listening, and I was like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
should we have cut that out? Or like, my jaw was on the floor. I was also laughing pretty hard because some of the stories were pretty funny, but I was
Just stay in mind, we always put the NSFW if you need the NSFW. So
at the end of the day, I was
suitable for work.
at the end of I thought it was not safe for work.
Or
At the end of the day, I was okay with it because it was very on brand with like West Virginia, I guess. And,
for sure.
So, but
are you giving us your grandfather, godfather blessing right now? I was okay with it because not my dad.
I was just saying, I was just here expressing my thoughts on that podcast. It was interesting. It was an interesting pod. We had a couple of people write in, expressing their level of discomfort.
Oh yeah.
Shout out Travis.
I was very uncomfortable. And so was Steve Slayton, by the way.
But I know you and Grayson agreed to a bet. So what do you guys owe the Bird and Couch folks?
Yeah, I gotta send him I got a post from my Twitter that the Black Diamond Trophy belongs in Morgantown, which it does. They came to Blacksburg, they kicked our ass, they keep the trophy. That's how it works. I will say another add-on to Out to Lunch, not playing this game every year. What a shame. What a shame this game is not played every single year. And I will add this. I did not have a single negative interaction with a West Virginia fan. Every single one was courteous. Every single one said that they enjoyed their game. Tried to go out of my way. I said, hey, welcome to Blacksburg. Hope you guys had a great time. And every single person was like, I love coming here. This is such an awesome event. This is such an awesome place to watch a football game. So shout out to the West Virginia fans. They were great, I thought.
We'll be previewing Carolina this week with David Hale on Tuesday. Shout out to everyone's favorite ACC writer, David Hale. Actually going to text him right now and confirm that we're ready to
go. Well, that doesn't work for Sons of Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Thanks. So we're excited to do that. Subscribe to the newsletter at the bottom of the website, sonsofsaturday.com/VT. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Sons of Sat VT. Follow us on like us on Facebook. Shout out to Will Trent, by the way, who takes phenomenal pictures. Nels did a great job on the field. Kyle Marchak always doing great content for Sons of Saturday. There's so many folks that we need to thank and people that just do a great job. So just want to continue to harp on their incredible efforts and let's go ahead and win a football game on Saturday.
Go Hoks!